Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory and infinite praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai Ba'ashim Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of GMS. Peace and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing His word in truth and sincerity. This will be a part 2 to my last lesson, right? I did Sirach, the 27th chapter. So I'm going to continue on to where I left off. Let the scriptures speak, and I want to desire this lesson is edifying. So Sirach chapter 27 in verse 12, it says, "If thou be among the indiscreet, observe the time, but be continually among men of understanding." So I broke this down in my last lesson, right? But it's basically saying, if you're amongst people in the world who may not be in the truth, right? That's the indiscreet, right? Observe the time, right? Meaning we know what time it is, we know what season it is, we know that type of, right, mindset we're supposed to have, right? But we just here for a particular, whatever it may be, right? Whatever the reason may be, right? But ultimately, our spirits is connected with Yahweh Shai and connected with the truth, right? And it said, but be continually among men of understanding, right? Just like in my last lesson, right? I broke it down. The type of company that you do want to have is men who fear the Most High, right? And that keep His commandments. Verse 13, it says, "The discourse of fools is irksome, and their sport is in the wantonness of sin." Yeah, so a lot of the times, right, people who in the world, people that's not in the faith and the truth, a lot of the times, 9 times out of 10, they're into something that's wicked, right? That's not righteous, right? That the Most High does not agree with, right? So the discourse of fools is irksome, right? A lot of times you're hanging out with people that's not in the truth, you can be irritated, right? Because of what they participate in, right? What they may be around, what they may try to have you around. All right. Their conversation, right? If their conversation is always in sin, right? As it says, as we just read, right? The wantonness of sin. That could be annoying, right? To always be around something that's full of sin and full of wickedness, right? You don't want to be around that. Verse 14, it says, "The talk of him that sweareth much maketh the hair stand upright, and their brows make one stop his ears." Yeah, that's going into basically somebody who talks with a very offensive language, right? You can hear it. Let's say I'm just give an example, right? You're on the train, and you see 2 individuals, they're arguing, right? The type of curse words they're saying to each other, right? The offensive language they using towards each other. People listening around, right? It makes you feel uncomfortable, right? It makes you not want to be around that type of environment, that type of energy, right? That's what it's saying, right? Verse 15, "The strife of the proud is bloodshedding, and their revilings are grievous to the ear." I'm gonna read the G&T. 15, it says, "It is painful to listen to them insult each other, and such blustering can lead to violence." Right, so that type of, language, right, that very offensive language towards, people, it leads to violence, right? It doesn't lead to anything good. Verse 16, it says, "Whoso discovereth secrets loseth his credit, and shall never find friend to his mind." Yeah, that's going into people who they enjoy revealing somebody's secrets. You're gonna lose the type of, you're not gonna have friends, right? If you have that type of mindset, okay? They say, for example, right? Somebody told you something that you want to stay between you and them, right? And you go and tell everybody else and spread their business across, everywhere. That same person who told you that secret, he's not gonna want to be, he's not gonna want to be your friend anymore, right? Because he can't trust you. Verse 17, it says, "Love thy friend and be faithful unto him, but if thou betrayest his secrets, follow no more after him." Right? If you have a friend, right, an individual that you believe you can trust, if you go and reveal that person's secrets, right, different things he told you in private and security, then follow no more after him, right? You lost his trust, right? You lost his friendship. Verse 18, it says, "For as a man that have destroyed his enemy, so hast thou lost the love of thy neighbor." Right, so it was almost like you guys were enemies. For that type of action to take place, for you to do something like that, it was like you guys were just enemies. Verse 19, "As one that letteth a bird go out his hand, so hast thou let thy neighbor go, and shall not get him again." Yeah, so that's straight to the point, right? But once again, right, Sirach, a lot of wise sayings, and wise sayings on how to conduct yourself, right? Dark parables in here, right? Dark sentences in here, right? But there's a lot of just straight to the point wise sayings and how to conduct and what to prevent, like what are certain actions you can prevent so that you don't find yourself in messed up predicaments. All right. Verse 20, it says, "Follow after him no more, for he is too far off. He is as a roe escaped out of the snare. As for a wound, it may be bound up, and after reviling, there may be reconcilement. But he that betrayeth secrets is without hope." Yeah, so as a wound, it may be bound up. As for revilings, it may be reconcilement, meaning you and a friend can have arguments, right? They can have fights, but that doesn't truly end the friendship, right? But it says revealing the secrets. A lot of the times you can't come back from that type of betrayal, because that's just what it is, right? It's a betrayal. Verse 22, it says, "He that winketh with the eyes worketh evil, and he that knoweth him will depart from him. When thou art present, he will speak sweetly and will admire thy words, but at the last he will write his mouth and slander thy sayings." Right, showing you the type of spirit that some people have, right? A very snake-like spirit, right? To talk to you a certain manner, and then behind your back, right, go and say the complete exact opposite. A lot of people have that spirit, right? So it says, "When thou art present, he will speak sweetly and will admire thy words, but at the last he will write his mouth and slander thy sayings. I've hated many things, but nothing like him, for the Lord would hate him." Right. Going to show once again, right, Sirach, wise sayings on how to conduct, what to prevent, and what to participate in. Like what to actually adapt, for lack of a better word, right? Adapt into your lifestyle, right? But with this type of behavior, that very snake-like behavior is not approved in the eyes of the Most High. "Whoso casteth a stone on high, casteth it on his own head, and a deceitful stroke shall make wounds." Continue to read. It's going to break it down. Verse 26, "Whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein, and he that setteth a trap shall be taken therein." Right, so somebody with that snake-like spirit, right, setting up traps for individuals, right, you're gonna fall in that same trap that you set up for somebody else. This is how the Most High operates, right? "He that worketh mischief, it shall fall upon him, and he shall not know whence it cometh. Mockery and reproach are from the proud, but vengeance as a lion shall lie in wait for them. They that rejoice at the fall of the righteous shall be taken, and the snare and anguish shall consume them before they die. Malice and wrath, even these are abominations, and the sinful man shall have both of them." Right, just showing you the type of spirit that you're supposed to have, right? That snake-like, malice, wrath, betraying-like spirit. That's a spirit we're supposed to stay far away from, right? And the spirit we're supposed to have, right, is keeping our house diligently in the fear of the Most High. So with that, I want to give all honor and glory and infinite praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Chag B'dash, Shalom.